It is 1 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. You know what that means? That means you are catching this show live on Facebook. And for those of you visiting for the first time, the show is called Get to Know Them. I am your host, Monica Graves. This is a show where I get to bring on some of the most inspiring people I know and have them share their story with you so that you can walk away with great nuggets of information and feel inspired yourself. And the show is broadcasted right here from my studio in Burlington, Ontario. I am a jewelry designer. My business is called Glam Jewels, GLAMJULZ.com. And I'm always decked out in my jewels because I love to be my own sponsor for my show. So make sure you go to my website. But I also have another show sponsor who is fantastic. Her name is Brenda Bedome. She is a Canadian jewelry designer. I'm wearing her top and her pants today. And I would love you to check her out as well at brendabadome.com. Use the coupon code Get to Know Them, and you will receive 22% off of your order, which is awesome. Today, I am so excited. We have Wendy Holmes joining us. And for those of you who do not know Wendy, I want you to pay special attention as I read you her bio. You're going to just love her. She is great and she's going to share her story with us. But she's also going to inspire us to make some significant change in our own lives, which is going to be great. So, meet Wendy Holmes. Wendy had a very successful career in nursing, both frontline and management. After decades of nurturing physical health, the transition to nurturing mindfulness was predestined. Her passion for improving the mindset and the lives of women is the reason that she co founded Mindfulness in Action. Mindfulness in Action has been hugely successful and offers the opportunity to reach even more women. Mindfulness in Action has at its core the teachings of Bob Proctor, founder of Proctor and Gallagher Institute, and Wendy's thoughtful and updated approach. Wendy is a transparent, dynamic, and relatable executive coach who will help you transform every aspect of your life. You are going to love listening to Wendy and hearing her personal story. She has incredible insights from her own life experience and will really help us to change the way we think about things to manifest more of the good stuff into our lives. Let's not wait. Wendy! Yay! How are
Yay!
you?
Good, Monica. How are you?
Good, good. I'm so happy to have you on. I'm sorry I stumbled over your bio a bit. Whenever I read them, it's like a little bit it's like reading to the class, you know? You're in a flow and then all of a sudden you go, "Oh, I didn't put this enunciation properly on." Anyways,
All good.
yeah, I love it. Oh, I'm so happy you're here and I'm really excited because we had such a nice chat during sound check to get to know each other a little more because we've only met once and that was last week.
Yes.
And yeah, so this is so great. Um Last week when I did meet you, you were doing this lovely talk at the Wallet to Wealth event. And you guided us all through a meditation that I am so grateful for. You helped me to envision things that I went to a place I've never gone before. And ever since then, I keep thinking about this vision I had and going back to it and thinking about it. And I'm so grateful to you for that, Wendy. It was a real gift. So I just wanted to say that.
You're welcome. Your
Yeah.
imagination is like something we tapped into as kids and have
Yeah.
forgotten to do that as adults. And it's where all the treasures lie. So I'm glad that you were able to do that. I think so many women in that group last week did that because I got tons and tons of messages around it. And it's just dreaming again, giving yourself permission to dream again about your life.
Yeah. Yes, so important. And speaking of being a little kid, when our imaginations were big and we were, probably in our best state, what was Wendy thinking about? What were you thinking you wanted to be when you grew up,
Yeah,
little
such a
Wendy?
little what was little Wendy thinking about?
Yeah.
It's funny because I grew up in a small town And I remember going to the guidance counselor to figure out what I was going to be when I grew up. Little did I know I had to be her to become her. We can talk about that later. But they said, Wendy, you can be a nurse or you can be a teacher. Which one do you want to be? I remember it like yesterday. I didn't know international school existed. I didn't know there was other things for women, kind of giving away my age.
Yeah.
But back then that was the options. And so I picked nursing just because I remember sitting around my table one night with my brother, my sister, my mom and dad. That's when families used to have dinners together every single night. And my dad asked me, he said, Wendy, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I said, a nurse. And they all laughed. They said, you don't even like blood. And I was then determined I was going to be a nurse and then of course I went into like the highest level of nursing, which is, the trauma, the emerge, the helicopter, all that stuff for over 25 years. But that's how I became a nurse. It was out of sheer drive. It's like, I'm going to prove them wrong. And I
Wow.
have a very supportive family, so if they're on, it's good. It's not. That was just what was
Yeah.
going on at the dinner table that night, and then I
Yeah.
committed to it. And I'm a committed type of person, so I had to do it. And then I ended up doing it for years and years and years. Mostly
Wow.
frontline. Mostly frontline.
What a career. So how did you deal with that mentally, Wendy? Like when you like how'd you deal with the blood? Like you must have seen things that were so
Yeah,
hard
so there
to
was a part of we lived in North Carolina for 7 years, and I was a nurse there, and I went through 4 different hurricanes, 2 of them level 4, where I had to be at the hospital for like 3 days in a row. You couldn't leave. My girls at the time were like 2 and 3. My son wasn't born yet, but my girls were little, and you would work for 8 hours, sleep for 8 hours, work for 8 hours, sleep for 8 hours. There's no electricity, no running water. It was an unbelievable stint in my nursing career that I'll never forget. I learned how to really survive in different circumstances through those natural catastrophes that we worked through. And then I worked in the Toronto area. I worked in Oakville for several years. I worked in London, Ontario for several years as well. I love the people. What I found about nursing was I wanted to help people, obviously, but now I do it on a totally different level. But that was always the drive, I think, for me is I want people, to be able to live their best life, to get better. At that
Mhm.
time, it was physically get better, and now today it's mentally, it's like really with your mind get better. So that's how my career started.
Yeah.
I graduated when I was 18 years old on a Friday, and I was hired full time and started on the Monday. So
Oh
you
my
know that
goodness.
my motto, Monica, growing up, my programming is work hard, work hard, work hard. And so it started right at the beginning of my career as a nurse. And my parents were very hardworking people. My dad came over from Belgium. He was an immigrant. His parents,
Mhm.
his dad was a carpenter through the war and was in Belgium, came over here, became a farmer, some of the hardest working stuff, right? So that's what I was raised around. So of course I outworked everybody. That's what I was taught.
Or that's so interesting what you say, you graduated on Friday, started the job Monday. That really, resonates with me, like, that speaks to the time that we grew up. I
Yes.
remember you remember the days where you had no responsibilities and the thought of going one day without a job was like it was enough to make you sick, y
Yes.
just crazy how that pressure that we put on ourselves and
Yes.
no time to listen to the inner voice. It was just like, "Gotta bring in that money."
It's just go, go, go. Do, do, do.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
call it the
crazy.
hustle.
The hustle, yeah.
The hustle.
Wow. So I'm also curious to know when you were saying in nursing that you were doing the helicopter stuff, were you actually, like, going up in a helicopter, like,
Part of the
to
job in North
bring
Carolina was you had to learn both. It's a little
okay.
different here in Canada. So yeah, there was times during one of the hurricanes, the US Army came in, and we had to go in their helicopters. It was a crazy tumultuous time, like you're in a crisis, you're in a level 4 crisis. It's I remember watching ER years later, and I'm like, I did that.
Yeah, no
But
kidding.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I can imagine the stress having 2 young kids at home, and here you are risking your life to help other people in your work,
yeah,
so wow,
yeah.
y
That
that's
feels like a lifetime
amazing.
ago, Monica.
Yeah, you were a different person, eh?
I
We
haven't
lived
nursed for
many
8
lives.
years. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, wow. So, what is it that got you interested in wealth consciousness and becoming financially empowered yourself, Wendy?
Yeah, I always say to everybody that I coach, like we all have a purpose in life. And our purpose is
Mhm.
really, it's a feeling. It's a feeling you get from things that you've been through. So it's not the nursing was one part of it. And then I got divorced. And I found myself as a mother of 3, pretty much being solo raising my kids. And um, and that ended up making me look for more income. So I joined a network marketing group, and I was a natural leader. I am a natural leader, I guess. And I went to the top 2% of that company. And in the company, to get to the top 2%, you really have to work on personal growth. And let me tell you, that didn't start there. I have always been a personal growth junkie.
Oh,
I
great. I love
Yeah,
it.
I've always been a personal growth junkie. I remember in my teens, I remember in my 20s, I remember when The Secret came out, and
Mm,
being glued to the TV going, what is this information? This is so crazy. I've thought this way for a long, long time, but I would never
mhm.
tell people it. I would go to the bookstore and try to find books on it. And there was this tiny little section next to the cooking aisle on personal growth. Now you walk in, it's like the first table. It's like, there it is.
Yeah.
So I've always read the books. I've always listened to the lecturers. I've always done all that, but my results didn't change. I was still making the
Oh,
same amount of money. And when I was still, nothing really changed. And I looked into it, and it was like simply because my results hadn't changed, because I hadn't shifted who I was. So I remember getting into a personal growth program, and it was under Bob Proctor years ago. And I
mhm.
was like intrigued by this information. This was even higher level information, even though I had studied. And I realized, honestly, a couple weeks into it, listen, this is really where my passion lies. I want to help people live their best life. I want to help people win at life, because I
Yeah.
wasn't winning at life as a single mom struggling. And I wanted it to stop at this. I wanted it to stop. And so when I learned all of these tools and a different way of being, I got different results. I reset myself, reprogrammed myself for success. And so
Mhm.
today I teach people and I mentor people on wealth consciousness, like how to
Yeah.
really attract money into your life. And I mentor entrepreneurs, I mentor mostly women,
Mhm.
really, really, like I said, win at life and live their best life by raising their consciousness and creating the life that they really truly want.
That's incredible. I was looking before we chatted. I did a like I know who Bob Proctor is, but I remember him from The Secret. And I don't know if you remember, Wendy. I think it's in The Secret where says, "We must learn to love ourselves. I want you to kiss yourself." And he's kissing his hand and he's like, "I
Yes.
love myself." And that was kind of, to me, that stood out. It was like a little bit outrageous, right?
Yeah.
And, but I didn't realize he was Canadian and that he had written a book called You Were Born Rich.
Yes.
So was this a book that you had read, like, back then that kinda got you into Bob Proctor, or what attracted you to
Yeah,
him
such a great
specifically?
question. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I've always, always been drawn to the big thinkers. Always.
Mm.
I always feel like their information gets absorbed somewhat in me, and I'm able to be sort of the messenger to communicate it out. But what really intrigued me about his story was that he really had a hard start in his 20s, and he made some shifts and increased his income from like $4,000 to it was like it was like 4 or 6 thousand in like a half a year or something like that, or maybe it was a year. And he had all of a sudden had all this success, and he didn't know how he did it. So he started to really work with some of the big thinkers to find out like what actually shifted in him. And so that's most of his 57, 58 years of work in personal growth is all about retraining your mind, shifting your paradigms, figuring out your self-image, and really stepping into that person. And his philosophy was you get what you believe. So you can
Mm.
control what you can believe, and you can put new beliefs in for yourself. So we see that like modern day today, like Dr. Joe Dispenza does a lot of this work as well. But I was always just really intrigued with these guys that had been around for a long, long time and had literally studied it every day and increased their awareness around it every day. So I made it
Mhm.
a mission several years ago that I was going to really help others do that. And that's indeed what I've been doing for the last several years.
That's incredible. Did you read Think and Grow Rich?
Yeah, I read it every day. Yeah.
You do, yeah,
Yeah. Think and Grow
yeah.
Rich is what we study in the work that I do. We study that book. And those are
Mm,
13 success principles that Napoleon Hill did. And then Bob
mhm.
mentored underneath these guys, and Earl Nightingale. And
Yeah,
there's a whole gamut of them. But and that's definitely how I live my life under those principles now. And we actually teach people those 13 principles so they too can have a successful life. So it's like we were
yeah,
talking earlier, it's like the ripple effect. You know,
yeah.
you get to have success, you get to have success. And success is not just money. It's like success in every area of your life.
Mhm.
And it's done through retraining your mind.
I love that. When I remember when I first was, like, getting into this sort of stuff myself, and I would think it was sort of almost, like, shameful, like, "I don't want people to know I'm reading this. They're gonna think I'm, like, a woo-woo," whatever people say, and it was sort of like it was almost like you were entering into this, I don't know, like, going through like a portal to a different world in a way, right? Where it was like this alternate way of thinking. And I remember coming across Think and Grow Rich. And I mean, that book was written in the late 1800s. And, it's all men, but, they believed that the way they were thinking was what was a direct result of the results they were having. And for whatever reason, I don't know, probably the way we were raised and looking up to authority, when I saw that book, that's what made me decide, "No, I'm all in with this, like, this is valid, this is not crazy. Like, I'm not crazy." Which, that sounds ridiculous, as I'm saying it out loud, but, such a powerful book, you
So,
know?
oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
It's so deep.
yeah.
We've had this word tossed around, especially in the coaching industry, this
Mhm.
manifestation word. And all it really means is that you're becoming aware of something that was already there. Like everything's already here. So, like I think about this, this started as this started as an
Yeah,
idea
yeah.
in Steve Jobs' mind. It always starts in your imagination. He wanted to
Mhm.
have a computer that he could hold in his hand. It wasn't
Yes,
here. We didn't know. Cell phones didn't exist back then. And
that's
that's
right.
how it came about is he nurtured this belief that, hey, we could have something that we could communicate in, and it could be a little computer in our hands. And he nurtured that idea. He nurtured that idea. And that idea, he thought about it and it grew him rich, didn't it? And he used
Mhm, it
all the
sure did.
principles. And he used all the principles while he was doing it, no doubt. No doubt. He
Yeah.
thought, it started as a thought. He got some emotion behind it, some feeling behind it. He started to
Mhm.
imagine it in his mind and he planted it in his subconscious mind. And then all the resources, all the people, all the ideas were drawn to him. And that's what we call the effortless way, Monica.
Okay, I love this. And I'm so happy how you described like this whole like describing manifesting as noticing what's already there because when I say this woo-woo thing, this is what I think shuts a lot of people down from this type of like, there's an emotional intelligence, there's an opportunity to really grow your brain and see the world in a different way and look at things from another perspective. But we shut it down because we go, oh, that's that weird spiritual stuff, or I'm not into that. That doesn't work. What is energy healing? Like, that doesn't work. Like, because we weren't raised with that, right? And so to come at it from like, let's just take a look at what's already there. Let's be observers of our life rather than the doers and the gotta get this done and the whole
Yeah.
it builds trust because as you and I were talking about offline, there's so many things I know to be true, but I am still working all the time because I have this in my mind that that is the way you make money. And oftentimes, the harder I work, the less money that comes in. And when I take a break, all of a sudden I'm seeing what's already there that I wouldn't have seen had I been working so hard. So,
Well, we're
it's
manifesting all day long. By that, I mean, we're thinking about things. Thoughts are coming in all day long. And there are 60,000 thoughts that come in all day long. And most of them are thoughts from yesterday. They're the same. It's like Groundhog Day, the same thing over and over again. And the reason why, and this may sound a little different for a lot of people, but the reason why working more and working harder doesn't make you more money is because you're programmed to make a certain amount of money. So if you're programmed to make it, it's like the thermostat on your wall. Like somebody opens the front door on a cold Canadian day and that thermostat drops down, doesn't it? And then the
right.
furnace kicks on and boom, it goes back up right to that. I loved your guest last week. It's the same with weight, with our weight. We're
Yeah.
programmed at a certain thing. So we're programmed, say, and we'll lose a little bit of weight, and then, you know, it'll come back and we'll end up at that set point. So it's going in there, and that's what she did. I listened to some of it, is she changed her
Yeah.
set point, right? So she connected with her body. She changed her set point, and that's why it works so beautifully. So this is really
Yeah.
honestly no different. It's no different. It's going in there and it's not changing the temperature. It's actually changing the thermostat and
Mhm.
creating new beliefs for yourself around working hard, for example. What if you nurtured a belief you could work less and make more, Monica?
Oh my god, then you and I would be on a yacht.
Yes.
We
And it's really just shifting
yeah.
your thinking and impressing that
Mhm.
into your mind
Mhm.
over and over again. It's through the repetition that you actually shift your paradigms, your ways of being. And anybody
Yeah.
can do it. Anybody can do it, but you have to be willing to do it. It was like when I did it years ago, it was like going to the University of Wendy again. But let me
Right.
tell you, I came out graduated like big time, like big time. So if I can, you can, right? It's the
Oh,
same idea.
that's I love that. I love it. And I, one of the things I admire about you so much, Wendy, is how you are so on board with if I can do it, she can do it, and she can do it, and she can do it. And you really are so dedicated to seeing women reach their full potential. And that was another thing that you and I had kind of discussed before coming on today is how important that is and how we have to undo that programming as well. Like when we cheer and scream for another woman and for their success, that's such a good thing. That doesn't mean that we're, like, overdoing it or over exaggerating or being like a crazy fan or something
Not
like
at
that.
all.
What that means is you when we all rise, it's good for all of us, and,
Yeah, and I'm
yeah.
all about raising women's consciousness around that. And collaboration is the highest form where
Mm,
competition is the lowest form. So when women compete against each other in that way, or try to push each other down, it only is old programming of that person. They've been taught to do that. They've been programmed to do that. So when we shift this and we start to rise together, like this is where the magic happens. This is where
mm,
true collaboration happens and everybody gets to win. Everybody gets to have the winning feeling, and there's more than enough to go around. It's everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. So some of the ways that you're helping women now, Wendy, like you're doing the talk show on the Wallet to Wealth group, which is
Yes.
really great, with Whitney Hammond.
Yes.
And every time you guys go on, I'm like, talk longer. It's like, you do these beautiful segments, and I'm like, I could listen to this all day, but
We feel like we're sitting in our kitchens just having a conversation every Monday. But what we're doing is we're raising awareness. And
yeah.
it was interesting because we started mindfulness in action during COVID when my daughter Sydney came home, and she at the time was working for the Leafs and the Raptors, and sports had shut down, and she's very much that type of girl. And she was like, "What do I do?" And I gave her Think and Grow Rich. No, the weekend, that first weekend, we watched another program of Bob's called The Science of Getting Rich, and then I gave her Think and Grow Rich, and I said, "Study this, and I'll help you." And she was like, just like I was, she was like, "This information, Mom, why don't they teach this in school?" And so the collaboration started with her and I had been working with several other coaches like on their teams for several years, and we decided to really merge together. And that's like a dream come true. It's like, when you can pass that along to your kids and raise their level of awareness, they get to have a big life too. They get to have the winning feeling as well. So it's been honestly a dream come true. I'm just so grateful every day to be able to empower women with my daughter, because it's generational, man. It's generational success
Uh,
that we're bringing on here at Mindfulness in Action, and we're doing big things over here. So it's not just the people that I'm coaching, it's their kids and their kids and teachers and that are saying to me, I want to bring this into the school system. So it's just such a beautiful ripple effect. And I know that we're just going to keep giving it, incredible deliverables and experiences over here so that everyone grows their consciousness and gets to attract whatever they want, and they become new people through the process of changing these habits.
yeah. Can you tell us about some of the transformations you've seen in your
Oh my
with your
goodness.
people?
It's funny because some sent me the other day, so I'm just going to read it just like you read it because it's so good.
Mhm.
Okay, one second. It's nice to hear from other people because they are living it. They're doing this work every day. This one girl wrote, I joined Mindfulness in Action in September 2022. And I can honestly say it's the best investment I've ever made for myself. I've asked myself numerous times why I never knew about mindfulness and why it's not taught in schools. It was quite an eye opener to learn. I did not know how I was, and to set big goals for myself. Because I do not comprehend material quickly, the daily training has helped me immensely. I was totally out of my comfort zone doing this work, but the coaches community, incredible support provided what I could never have imagined. And it's just like stuff like that. It's just,
Yeah.
I hear it from attract relationships, but what I really love is when I see somebody grow into who they want to be. The goal over at Mindfulness in Action, and the goal of all people is just to grow into
Mm,
the person that you want to be, and to feel good every day getting up and excited about your life. That's really the goal.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of our testimonials. We've had, of course, people with money and careers and travel and houses and whatever they want. When we first get started with people, it's all about like, what do you want? For most people, it always comes down to freedom. Everybody really
Mm,
just wants to feel free. They want to
yeah.
have a life of their dreams. And that's what we're all
Yes.
about, showing them the way.
I okay, I have to share something with you. This was really cool. On the weekend, I went to an all women's dance party with a girlfriend of mine, 40 plus, okay, in Toronto. Beautiful, wonderful women, and nothing against men, but because there were no men there, purses were just left on the table or whatever. Nobody was worried about anything going missing. It was just like this great vibe. So they're playing all our music, right, Wendy? And all
Yes.
of a sudden they put on they put on George Michael, Freedom, the song
Oh,
Freedom. These women, I was, like, almost crying. That's what they were all singing together, that song, and it was just exactly what you're saying. This huge message is like, "This is what we want. This is all we've ever wanted, is freedom from from whatever it is we've created in our lives that's no longer working from us, freedom from our old ways of thinking, freedom from people who, just shouldn't be in our life anymore." Like, Y
yeah.
yeah,
It's just, it's
it's a
all
lot
about
of
letting.
undoing.
Yeah, it's all about letting. So letting go to let in. You have to let
Mhm.
go to create the space for something that you want to come in.
Yeah,
That's it,
yeah.
right?
Wow.
And we're here
Yeah.
until we're not here. So this is the time to do it. You're exactly, this is the perfect time to just really dive deep into you. And that's what
Mhm.
we teach people, is we teach them to live from the inside out and using all their higher faculties than living from the outside in, which is allowing our five senses, like what's happening right now, to affect how we're feeling. So when you
Mhm.
learn how to switch that shit, or that switch, whoa,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, here we go. Get
Yeah.
get ready, get your
Buckle
seatbelt
up.
on, because you're going for the ride of your life right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. So, what are sort of the things that you do every day, Wendy, to get centered and to be in that flow? Like,
Such a good question,
y
Monica. I get that question a lot. I really do. And it's everybody's different. And remember that I am a personal growth junkie. So I've done this for a long, long time. And there's no right way or wrong way. Your way is the right way. If it's right for you, that's enough. And you are
yeah.
enough is my message. But I love to get centered with meditation. I've done meditation for years. And I do meditation, which calms my mind down. And then I go into a visualization of me at the end, me with, just like I took the ladies last week to you at the end, like who's around you, what are you doing, how are you feeling, where are you, all of that stuff. So what that does is it gets me energetically in the space of me with my goal achieved. I'm there. So I'm operating now from my goal achieved, not to my goal achieved. Very, very different frequencies, right? So
Right.
operating from my goal achieved. So I do that every morning. I write out my goal every morning. I don't write out my goal because I'm going to forget it. I write out my goal so it's top of mind all day as I'm working through my day. And I always do gratitude. I'm always am grateful for 5 things that I have right now. And then I'm grateful for 5 futuristic things. And
Yeah.
then I send love to 3 people that might have, like, maybe not made me happy the day before. I just send it out so
Okay.
it's gone away from me. And then I set an intention for the day. I set an intention for the day.
Wow.
So that's really my morning routine. I study every morning for an hour. We have study groups at Mindfulness in Action. So we're studying all different programs, but we study Proctor's programs there,
Mhm.
and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So it's,
That's,
yeah, no, it's so good. And so that's kind of how I set up my day.
mhm. Wonderful. I like that. I love what you said about, like, sending love to people who, maybe rubbed you the wrong way or eh, yeah, because
It's just a good practice just to release and forgive. Just for,
mhm.
it's just so it's not hanging energy around you all day long. So it's
Yeah.
intentional, right? I'm intentionally sending love out to somebody.
Mhm.
And if I don't have
Yeah.
any, then I just send it to myself. I just go, okay.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of my morning routine.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Gosh, and so in the daytime, are you doing, like, a lot of one-on-ones with people, or do you work more in larger groups?
Yeah,
How
I
do your
tend to work
programs
more in
work?
larger groups. Yeah,
Okay.
we have different times that we have groups. I do a master class at least once a week.
Mhm.
We do so that people who are studying themselves have touch points, and accountability is the most key component to really growing yourself. Is we give that support and accountability so people have that success.
Mhm.
So they're
Yeah.
they're in a yeah, so they're studying themselves um, in the morning as well, and then they're implementing those tools throughout the day. They're using them, they're applying them, and it's in the application that the shift happens, and you get the results. So that's where I
Yeah.
say you can read all the books that you want, but nothing will shift until you actually shift and become her. And I have found that through study and through really understanding concepts and then applying those concepts, that's the way to grow.
Yeah,
That's the way to go
definitely.
and to grow.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
so good.
So I'm growing my awareness every day. They're growing their awareness every day. So you
Yeah.
can't give what you don't have, right? So you have to figure
Mhm.
out, you got to figure out what's inside of you. And I can guarantee you guys that the answers are always, people say, well, how do I do that? What's the how? The answers are inside of you. And how you do something is you go to your vision, you go to your imagination, and you start to think about how you want your life to be. You start to act that way, and you start to behave that way, and you get into alignment with your goal. Because
Mm.
if one's off, if you're thinking, I want a lot of money, but in your mind, your thoughts are, I don't have enough in my bank account. Oh my gosh, another bill came in. My wash machine's going to break down. That's what's going to
Mhm.
show up. So I teach people how to shift their thinking so that they're only
Yeah.
thinking about what they want, not what they don't want.
God, that's huge. There's a couple of things about that. Like, first of all, to shift that way of thinking, I think we always feel this responsibility to worry about what we actually see happening, and to make that shift to I'm going to choose not to look at that. I'm going to choose what I want my life to look like. And it almost feels irresponsible. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yep.
Like, at that well, that's me, like, I think, like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine and everything," but, in reality, like, I gotta think about those bills because I gotta figure out a way to bring in money to pay for them. Like, I
Yep.
can't abandon that worried thought, but that just sounds ridiculous. Whether I worry about it or not is
Mhm.
irrelevant,
What I have
you know?
found is if you can abandon that old way of thinking, it unkicks the hose to money. Because what's
Mm,
happening is when we're worried about it, the hose goes "Huh," and it's stuck. It can't move, right? So the way to
right.
unkink it is to really just be thinking about what it is that you do want and affirming that throughout the day, affirming. And it's through the repetition that it goes into your subconscious mind. And again, whatever is in your subconscious mind will show up in your physical world. So when people
Mhm.
have, if they're worried about money, I know that they're in their physical world, they will never have the amount of money they want to have. I know that because it happened to me. I'm telling you,
Mm,
like, right, it happened to me. But when I learned this new method and this new way of being, and I call it a beingness because it truly is, I started to have something called faith. You know,
mm.
George Michael, you got to have faith. That
Yes.
damn George
George has
Michael
all
knew
the
all the, he had all the answers. Who would have known?
he did.
But you have to have faith. And faith is
Yeah.
that it is not seeing something right now, but having belief that it's on its way to you 100%. And even when the bills come in, you guys, when I get a bill in the mail, I put thank you on my bill with a big smiley face, and I'm sending that out. I'm going, thank
Great.
you. I'm so grateful I have the money to pay for that. Not, oh my God, my bill's $400. This is awful. See that different vibration? I'm
Yes.
grateful that I have the money. I have it. It's a green light. I can pay that. So it's very different, a different vibration. And when you're on a higher vibration, you attract new ideas, new resources, new people that will help you raise your income. That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's wealth consciousness.
Good.
That's by wealth consciousness. That's wealth awareness. You're becoming more aware that your thoughts do become things. And what a belief is a thought that we keep thinking over and over and over again. So why the heck would we want to think and worry about money over and over again? Makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's just
So
little,
true.
it's just little shifts.
Look, can you talk about the little shifts, Wendy? Because that was something I heard you talk about on Whitney's show, and I loved it because I think sometimes for whatever any of us could do, like I find, it's always in January, New Year's, new new year, this is the year I'm going to bring in X amount of money. I'm going to kick some ass and I'm going to do this. And the number goes from like the income level is here to I'm going for this.
Yes.
And then the months go on and you're like, what was I insane? There's no way I'm going to get all the way up here. And you just get discouraged and you just stay where you've always been. So I loved your perspective on that thinking.
Yeah, so it's really like, so if you think about, I'm just going to use me as an example. If you think of me as a nurse,
Mhm.
I made $5,000 a month nursing. So, a millionaire makes $83,333 a month. That's what a millionaire makes. That's what they make. So for me to go from 5,000 to $83,333, that's like a huge gap. And so
Mm.
that's the mountain. So think of it as base camps. Think of it as base camps. So pick a number that it feels uncomfortable. Like, I don't know how
Yeah.
I get to even, like, let's say 10,000 a month. Feels uncomfortable, or 20,000, whatever comes up, whatever numbers for you, and start to build your belief system around that. And so as we build our belief, we build the ladder of belief. So let's say we hit 10. Wait, well, now I could double that and I could hit 20. What's different at 20? What am I doing different? How am I thinking different? What am I acting differently? What am I doing differently? All of that stuff. And identifying it, start doing that, build your
Mhm.
belief, and go to that next ladder, and go to the next one, to the next one, and just never stop. The failure, you can only fail if you quit. Yes, we're
Yeah.
human, we're going to have days where we get off track, but get yourself quicker back on track and go, I don't want to think that way. I'm not going to let those thoughts come in. I'm going to think something different. I'm going to nurture this new belief of what my life would be like with that type of income. So
Beautiful.
it's a process, because our minds
Mhm.
won't let us go from here to here, because we're like, in our subconscious, we're like, that's never going to happen.
Mhm.
That there's no way that can happen. And again, whatever we think in our subconscious mind, whatever we feel in our subconscious mind, will be our results. So
Yeah.
it's just sort of knocking it down for you so that it doesn't look so big. We call it, in my work, the law of relativity. We make it look smaller.
Oh,
Everything's
beautiful.
relative. Mhm.
Yeah. And one of the things I feel like I've learned since the pandemic is when something in your life is really important, like being in the best shape you've ever been when you're over 50, or stop, quitting smoking or cutting back on alcohol or whatever the heck it is. We live in this world of like instant gratification and let's see results immediately, but really the most beautiful work that that will have long lasting power does not happen like that. It takes a year, it takes 2 years to really work through that stuff so that you can make a clearing and never go back
Yeah.
and that's what I love about the work you're doing. Like you're taking people on this journey to really discover who they are, what's holding them back, and like you said, small increments
Yes.
to get them to where they want to go so they never go back to that other place. Because we can all feel like we could be a millionaire in a day. We could manifest all day. Yeah, I can feel it. I see myself in that beach house. I see that. But unless you've really worked through all that other stuff, y-
Yeah, and I
you
think
can,
that's where manifestation can get a bad name, because people will say, I'm
Mhm.
going to manifest that. And I'll call them out on it, because I'm one of those coaches that will call you out on it. And I'll say, well, tell me what action you took today. What was your action? Because if
Yeah.
just talking about it isn't going to do it, you have to move your body toward it. Even by changing the way you think is an action, right? I
Hmm.
don't mean working harder, everyone. Everyone's going, Wendy, you said working harder. No, I'm not talking about working harder. I'm talking about being mindful of your thoughts, your feelings, and taking action once you are inspired. We call it inspired action, or in the spirit of it is another way of saying it.
Right.
So the key is to go to your feminine energy first, where you're
Hmm.
intuitive, where you're creative, where you're vulnerable, and then act from there and take action from there. I tell people in business, and a lot of, like, entrepreneurs, I'll say to them, like, if you're doing reach outs, don't do reach outs just to do a checklist, because you'll always get no's. People will never respond to you, or they won't, you have to do it in spirit of it. So go to your feminine energy, go visualize for 5 minutes the life that you want, then make the calls, not the other
Mm,
way around. So that you're doing it in
yeah.
high vibration, and I'll tell you, you're going to get yeses 100%. Things will start to shift.
Yeah.
And it's just those little tweaks.
Oh, that's beautiful. Wendy, you're so good. You're
Thank you,
awesome.
Monica.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, so anybody who's watching, if they want to sort of start to follow you, and what are some ways that they can do that to
Yeah,
get all this good stuff?
absolutely. We have
Yeah.
a group on Facebook called Embracing Your Feminine Edge. And if you're on this today, you can go into that group. We'll approve you in there, and you're going to get tons and tons of content. I go and do lives on there periodically, just with a little bit of content here and there. And that's a great place to land if you're looking just to start your journey on personal growth. It's a beautiful environment, community of like-minded people that are working on themselves, that have an interest in, being that best version of themselves. So that's one place you can go. You can always direct message me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Mindfulness and Action Coaching is on Instagram. You can go there as well. And we want to hear from you. I want to hear all about your big goals, your big dreams. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's where you can find me.
Great. Oh, that's
Oh, and on
fantastic.
Wallet to Wealth every Monday.
Every Monday. Yeah,
Every Monday.
perfect.
Yeah.
That's great. And I think you share those interviews as well in
Yes.
your Facebook
In the
group too.
Feminine
So
Edge group.
that's,
Yep, we do.
yeah, good.
And we called it Feminine Edge because we really believe that when you learn to work with your femininity and your feminine energy, you really do have the edge. And
Mhm.
as women, we're just going to raise up together. We're just going to
Yeah,
do it. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So yeah, that's kind
it
of what we're
is.
working on.
I love it. Yeah, it's so, I just have to say, Wendy, it's so cool. Like post pandemic, I find all the women I'm meeting, like women like you, and I met a woman yesterday. It's almost like it's like spirit is working to bring us together. It just
Well,
feels deeper
like-minded
and
people find like-minded people. And what the pandemic
yeah,
did was it awakened a lot of people. It awakened them
yeah.
to, like, what do I really want in life? Like, where, like, I
Mm,
don't, that's why we saw the great resignation for a lot of people in businesses and stuff, that they made the decision that, hey, I want to have some flexibility. I want to be home more with my family, or I want to travel more, whatever it was. So,
mhm.
it was a global awakening. And I think that's why people are more apt to, work on themselves. Like, I'm a coach and I have a coach. Like, coaches have coaches. Like, and
Mhm.
it's just, you always want to be expanding yourself, help the world, the greater good, humanity expand themselves. That's the big
Mhm.
message, is that if you do it, someone else gets to do it because they've been around you.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a really
Yeah.
cool thing. It's a really cool
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, so good. Wendy, I'm so grateful for all your time today. Fantastic. It went by way too fast,
Well, thank you for
our
having me.
time
I
together.
really enjoyed it. I love
Yeah.
talking about women rising together and
Yeah.
making a difference in the world. And we're all about that at Mindfulness in Action. So, yeah, and I think what you're doing, Monica, here is amazing and beautiful and inspiring. It's
Thank
it's just
you.
it's such a beautiful platform for us to all celebrate each other.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I'm going to
You're
put
welcome.
you in our virtual back room, Wendy, and
All right.
I'll come
Bye,
back to you in a
everyone.
second.
Thanks so
Take
much.
care.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Wendy is absolutely fantastic. I am so inspired by her, and I got some good tips today on other things I can be doing to master the manifesting. Please join me again next week. We'll have another amazing guest. Make sure you go to my website, glamjewels.com to check out some jewelry. I'm actually wearing one of our solar quartz necklaces today. You can check those out. And our sponsor, Brenda Badome, beautiful clothing. She's at brendabadome.com. Use the coupon code Get to Know Them for 22% off of your order. And for anybody who's watching who might be a fellow roller skater, tomorrow night I am going to be emceeing an event at Scooter's Roller Palace in Mississauga, and it's called Groove and Give, and it's to raise money for Sunnybrook Hospital, and it's a 70s theme, so I'm going to be all decked out in my 70s outfit. Make sure you come and do the same. There's going to be contests for best costume, all kinds of things. So it would be so great to see you there. And if you haven't roller skated in a while, don't worry. It all comes back. So take it easy. Have a great week. Keep on showing the world your sparkle, and I will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.